And then in 2000, Mr. Bob Jarvis, and then with another one of my mentors, Mr. Chris Altair. Upon leaving there, I came back home looking for a job, couldn't find one, so I just started training dogs right away. And I think that's how I got here.
Now, did you always have a love for dogs?
Oh yes. I grew up in Jamaica, and in Jamaica, my father was actually a farmer. Mm-hmm. So we had all sorts of livestock, all sorts of animals around.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And so when you got into dog training, what was that process like? And, was it, I know you said you were looking for a job. So was that process like all in? You all in, or was there some hesitation? Will this work?
Well, I was very fortunate in that my wife was working and was doing the pet dog walking. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to right away start making, my whole complete living, So I was fortunate that way. It was right away all in. I just wanted to do that. So I went right into it all the way, right when I got out of National Canine.
Awesome.
It was pretty hard. I was looking hopefully to find a job at first with somebody else, mm-hmm. but that was very difficult. Nobody was hiring at the time, mm-hmm. at least not hiring me. So, right. So I was able to, it was all right though, because I had the dog walking clients who were able to be my first clients.
Exactly. So it's like kind of fed,
One feeds the other.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Cool. Once again, you're listening to the What Now broadcast. I'm your host, Eric Kennedy. And this is a live interactive broadcast. If you have a question about your dog, what your dog behavior is, or how do you get your dog to do certain things, feel free to call in and you can interact with us live here in the studio. The number is 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685, or you can call 617-282-7794. And if you're watching us, the number is scrolling on the screen, the bottom of the screen. And we're going to continue our conversation here with Martin Wright with Argos Dog Training. So where is your business located?
We're located right here in Dorchester, at 1066 Washington Street here.
So literally right down the street?
Right down the street.
Okay.
It took me like 5 minutes to get here. It was good.
Awesome. And so dog training, what type of dog training do you do?
I do pet dog training. I do pet dog training. I do a lot of behavior modification. So I work basically on helping people to communicate with their dogs and helping them to solve the problems that they have, all the problems that they have with mm-hmm. dogs.
So if someone has a dog and they continuously won't go to the bathroom outside,
we solve that.
You can help solve that?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Barking at people?
Yes, we can help solve that.
So jumping up on people?
Jumping up, yep, we can solve. So a lot of these problems, really, a dog will not do those things when I'm with the dog, mm-hmm. right? They tend not to do that. And I think that's because of the information that I've collected over the years mm-hmm. training dogs. So a big part of my job is to teach my clients that same information and to help them to make it a part of their life, mm-hmm. So that way it becomes as easy for them as it is for me.
Okay.
So that is the biggest part of my job. So a lot of the times the dog is not the hard part.
It's it's
getting buy-in, complete buy-in from the whole family.
Right.
That's the tricky part.
Well, we're about the warm weather's here, so you're going to see a lot more dogs out and about, people walking the dogs without leashes. And how do you go about getting the dog to stay with you? Like, what's the process? Because you see people, they're being pulled and
right.
yanked, and they look like they have no control over their dogs and stuff like that, and just like...
So the thing is that it comes from engagement, being able to engage the dog's mind, mm-hmm. really get their attention. My dog just got up. I'm going to have to ask her to lay back down.
I was actually going to move your camera so people can see. If you're listening or watching, we do have...
See if I can help you out with it. Oh, sorry. That's Dee Dee.
There you go.
That's Dee Dee Bones.
And if I'm not mistaken, she's a Doberman, right?
She is a Doberman.
Red Doberman.
10-year-old Doberman.
Beautiful dog.
Yeah.
And does she help train other dogs?
She helps. She used to help more. Dee Dee, down, sweetie. She used to help a little bit more, but now she's at this point. She's mainly retired.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so she doesn't have to do much these days anymore. So what did we leave off with? I'm sorry.
So we were talking about leash walking and tugging and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah, a lot of that is engagement. It's getting the dog to be able to pay attention, you know, to you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, a lot of it starts actually in the house with fun games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, games that we could transport outside. A lot of the times when I speak to new clients, they don't mind using treats in the beginning, but they always ask, do you have to use treats forever?
Right.
But treats help us to engage the dog, so I always have treats,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And my clients who have been with me for a while, they pretty much always have treats. So we have little games, we have little treats, and those things that's what we use to get the dog's attention on us instead of just focused on what dogs want to focus on. Sniffing things, moving fast, you know, all the things that we need them to kind of do. We have to have something for them, you know, to get them
I was talking to someone the other day, and I was telling him I was having you on there, and he was talking about how his dog, every single tree he wants to mark. Like, how do you get them to stop doing
that? Well, if you know it's every single tree, 1 or 2 steps before you reach the tree, get your dog's attention,
right.
You know? And I know that sounds harder. It sounds like it's difficult, and it can be difficult in some situations, but with that practice, you know, with the gameplay inside, chasing the treats, figuring out ways to have fun with your dog where their tail is really wagging, and then you could use that same voice, that same demeanor just an instant before the dog is going to look to you. You reward the dog, you get past the tree, and it's not a problem.
Right.
And then what starts to happen is that dogs learn through association. So they see a tree, they want to pull to the tree so they can mark on it. That's an association. Later on, if we interrupt that association, what happens is it forms a new association. So they see the tree and they might want to pull, but then they remember that you give them treats, so then they look back at you. And that's the starting of changing the behavior.
Right. You mentioned something about voice, and that's very important because when I was younger, I worked with I was part of a Boston police organization, and I got to help and learn how to train dogs through the Boston Police Canine Unit. But you mentioned something about voice, and that's very, very important, how you speak to the dog. So can you elaborate on that?
Yes. Yeah. So dogs can tell from the tone of our voice, and even more so from our demeanor, you know, what our intentions are, what our mood is, you know, how we're feeling in general. You know, what I was saying before about association, that is true with the voice too. If I play it with my dog and I have a certain tone in play, the dog can pick that up in any situation. And as soon as they do, they start thinking about play, right? So if my dog is about to do something wrong, or if my dog is looking aggressive and I have a really strong association there, I could use a playful voice and I could change the demeanor of the dog pretty much instantaneously, right? So the other thing is the scolding voice. I hear that a lot too. Like the dog knocks over the trash, and as soon as he heard my voice, he knew that he did wrong. You know, it doesn't really quite work that way. It's not that he knew that he knocked over the trash. He knows that that's the voice that comes with some kind of punishment.
Right.
You know, with some kind of reprimand, some kind of scolding. So as soon as he hears that voice, he shows submission, which to us looks like he knows he did something wrong. But really, he's just reading. He's like, your body language is telling me now it's time for submission.
Right.
Not that I knocked over the trash.
Right.
Right. So that's how our voice is very important.
Right. One of the things I learned when I was working with the canine unit is that it's all play for the dogs. Even doing work like that, like bomb sniffing or something like that, that it's a game because they know if they find the bomb, they get a treat.
They get rewarded.
They get rewarded. Yeah. If they find the person, they get rewarded. So it's everything evolves around that whole playfulness.
Yes, especially in the more serious work. But all of it, service dog is the same thing too. You know, it's one of the best ways to teach a dog is to teach him through play. I'm convinced too that it's one of the best ways to teach children, because sometimes I have children who are my clients,
Right.
you know, and teaching them how to train dogs. I teach them through games, you know, because it is a really good way. Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought up service dogs, because we have a really dear friend of ours who just got a dog, and she uses as a service dog. And so, do you do a lot of training with service dogs?
I actually do not do service dog training. Yeah, that's not my specialty. I really want to help people with their pet dogs who are having a hard time. I do have friends in the area who do that work, and whenever someone asks for that, I'm able to refer them out. But that is serious work. It is important work. Yeah, so it is important, and you have to make sure that you are working with reputable people when you do that. Okay.
Now, protection.
I do not specialize in protection. I love protection. I was trained in how to do it. I enjoy it. It is a fun game, but that is also not what my calling is, so I don't really focus on that much. I do have friends, once again, a lot of friends in the Boston area who do that kind of work, and it is also important work.
Yeah. And so dog ownership, would you agree that it's not for everybody?
Yes, I would. I would agree that it's not for everybody. It's a commitment, it's a commitment in time. With my dog, I spend 3 or 4 hours a day just with her and with my own dogs, whether it's walking, playing, doing whatever, it's hours in a day. Where we have to do that. There's a commitment in finances as well. My dog is now 10 years old. She has medication that she's on, and this and that. And of course there's vet bills all the way through, there's also the need to really take care of the dog right, which is another thing, that needs to be added in there. Being able to do the research, especially with an adopted dog or with a young dog, taking the time to do the research to find out what the right things are for that dog. That's a commitment as well.
Getting to know the breed that you're, taking ownership of is important as well.
And training is a commitment. For me, it's pretty easy. You don't have to do much, but in the beginning, it's learning a language or learning how to drive a car. Once you know how to drive the car, it's easy. But those first few times in the seat, it's pretty stressful and it's difficult. There's a lot to keep, to be aware of. And that's something else too that we have to consider.
So we get parents, the kid wants a dog, they give in. I'm gonna get you a good dog for Christmas or your birthday, but it's your responsibility. How true is that?
I've never known that to work out. I've never known that to work out in the parents' favor. It always seems like the parents end up taking care of the dog. So parents out there, I don't know, I think you guys need a contract or something, but it always, and the truth of the matter is that the dog is an adult responsibility. No matter, even if the child really wants to take care of the dog, they cannot purchase the food. They cannot purchase the training lessons. They cannot, go to the vet. They can't do all the things that's required, to really take care of the dog, and make sure that they're stable and happy in the house. They can play with them. But if you watch dogs really carefully, like they'll play with the children, but after a while they're looking for mom, they're looking for dad to go lay down next to them. You
have to feed the dog, you have to wipe, clean the dog, you have to clean up the dog messes, and stuff like that. Is
all the stuff that kids don't really love doing. They don't.
I just want to play with it. That's
it. Play. Right? And then I wanted to leave me alone when I'm eating ice cream.
You have to walk the dog, It's like,
No, I want to play video games now. It's time to walk the dog.
So what is your favorite breed of dog?
Favorite breed. So that is a difficult question because I have like 5 favorite breeds. I've only owned 3 dogs.
Okay.
But I have a lot of dogs that I wish I could own. My favorite breed of dog is I'm gonna say the Doberman because she can hear me. So my favorite breed of dog is the Doberman. I also own a Min Pin, which is a nice breed as well. I've always wanted a Border Collie, and I think I'm gonna get a Border Collie at some point in life. I love pits. I love pit bulls. Of course, I love the Jack Russell Terrier, although I don't think I have the energy to keep up with them. And my favorite is not actually a breed. I love mixed breed dogs.
Mixed breed dogs.
I am a mixed breed dog person.
Yeah.
You know, because they could do everything and they're really smart. I have a mixed breed dog as well.
Okay.
Really smart dogs, really tough dogs. They're able to tolerate a lot more a lot of times than the purebreds can.
My favorite dog's a Shepherd. I have a 10-year-old Shepherd.
Nice.
And I'm looking into getting, hopefully soon, a Shiba Inu.
Nice.
I love Shibas.
Very different dogs.
Yes.
Very different dogs. Shibas took me a little while because their facial expressions weren't as clear to me. You know, they kind of always look like they have the same facial expression. But then I got to know a few of them, and then I could kind of see some expression there. You know, but I like the breed. That's an ancient breed, the Shiba Inu.
Yeah. It's related to the Akita.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love those dogs. I actually had one of those growing up in Akita.
Yeah.
It's a Boston police officer, a friend of mine's breeded them and gave us one. And beautiful dogs.
Yeah, they're a lot more about relationship in my experience with them than about food. They really understand, you know, when you're trying to manipulate the situation. You know, like they'll play the game, but they're like, all right, I know what I really want to do. I know you're trying to use this game to get me out of doing that. You know, but once you have that really strong relationship with them, they're like, all right, I know what's going on. I know that you want to get me out of doing that, but because we have such a strong relationship, I'll stop doing that and I'll come over and do what you want to do. Right. They're a great breed.
So like for a person who has a fear of dogs, how do we get them to overcome that?
How do we overcome a fear of dogs? So that is really hard because the person has to really want to overcome that fear. But I think it starts with just being comfortable in the presence of a dog. One dog. A small dog. It could be on a leash and you could be 30 feet away, you know, and just stay there for a while and just watch the dog for a little bit. You know, that's going to start to break down some of the fear. When you feel comfortable, you could go a little closer. Other things that you can do is throw food at the dog, because then the dog is going to start to pay some attention to you. I've never seen a dog that dislikes a child in a high chair. They might not like children, but once you put them in a high chair, they're pretty much right there waiting for the food to drop. Right? So I've never seen a dog dislike a child in a high chair, and we could use that if you're a little bit afraid of dogs. A lot of the times that fear, I would think, I don't really have a fear of dogs, but I would think that fear comes out from being unsure of what the dog is going to do, you know. But when you're given food, the dog is eating, you know, and that's going to help. And if you can eat food too, that's going to help a lot of times relax yourself too. So if they're over there holding the dog 15 feet away and you're at a barbecue and you're able to get something and start eating that and throwing some food at the dog, pretty soon you guys are going to get closer, you know. Don't rush it. And pay attention to that bubble, you know, that bubble of space that you really want to maintain. Another thing for people who are afraid of dogs, when you see a dog on the street, watch the person who's holding the leash as well, you know, because a lot of the times there's a lot of people who are really able to control their dog. There are some people who are not. And, you know, you want to make as much distance as you can from the ones who are not. But the ones who are, if you're feeling good that day, just go, instead of crossing all the way over, just go to the outside of the cars. You know, just go a little closer. And then as success happens, as you go through it and you realize, well, that wasn't so bad, then I think that's the best opportunity to be able to get past that, you know.
Big pet peeve of mine's lap dogs. I see these people carrying their dogs in these little purses and stuff like that.
I hear you. So I do have a Min Pin, and she is about 7 pounds. She's never been inside of a purse or a bag or anything. I tell all my little dog clients, let your dog walk because it builds up confidence in the dog. So I've never had that where she was like, I carry her on planes and things where she has to be in her carry case. But she doesn't really love that. She's not one of those, but she does like to get on the lap. Every time I sit down, she wants to get up there, and that's kind of what they are. We want to give our dogs confidence, so we want them to be on the ground. For me, a lap dog is a breed of dog, and they do everything that the big dogs do. They play tug of war, they get fetch, they'll bark. You could have them bark on command. Yeah. They could do everything a big dog could do. They're just a little smaller, which makes them kind of cool.
But you're also not letting them get the exercise they need by always carrying them around, especially when the dog just won't move unless you pick it up. Now,
right?
It's like no.
And the communication. The real reason why we have dogs is because we want that connection, right? If every time I could solve the problem by scooping up the dog, it doesn't give me an opportunity to figure out other ways to solve the problem. With a large dog, you can't do that. You have to communicate. You have to. You can't just pick them up and, we're going over there now. But with a small dog, it's a lot easier to cheat. Just, all right, we're going over here, kind of like with a small toddler.
Right.
You're crawling too far.
So again, we're here at the studio live, and it's an interactive broadcast. So if you have questions about your dog, please call in 617-282-0685 or 617-282-7794. And interact with us live here in the studio. And again, we're here with Martin Wright from Argos Dog Training. And you are local, right here, right down the street from the studio on Washington Street. And a phone number. How do people get in touch with you?
You can find us at 617-30-ARGOS, ARGOS. Or you could say 617-302-7467. Either way. That's the one way to get in contact. But I do, if you would, check out my website. I have a lot of information there. And the best way is to fill in a contact form on the website. That's going to be the best way.
And also sign up for his YouTube channel. There's some great training videos, and subscribe on there, and some great training videos and some information on those videos. And
definitely. There's a lot of free, good information on that channel and all over YouTube. By the way, I don't know if I told you, Eric, I'm starting a podcast.
Okay.
So that is going to start this spring. So spring is coming to an end. I think June 21st is the end of spring.
Right.
So we got everything together. We're just waiting on the theme music. It's called the People's Wolf podcast.
Nice.
And it's really about news stories with dogs that feature dogs that and myself, a professional dog trainer, one of my senior clients who's not a professional dog trainer, we discuss the stories and talk about what happened and that kind of thing, hopefully to give some insight on those stories.
Right.
So it's a unique podcast. I haven't seen one like it, but yeah, I hope you guys all check it out.
Will people be able to get to it through the website, or?
Yes, they will. It's not on the page yet. I do have a Facebook page. We're working on all the other social media.
Okay.
But it should be up on my website the end of this week.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's get to, you said one of your favorite breeds was pit bulls. So that's a sore subject for a lot of people, especially here in Boston, because they have to be, well, technically they have to be muzzled and stuff like that. Is there still a law on that in Boston or not?
I don't believe that they are. I believe that now we don't have to do that.
Okay. So what's the story with pit bulls? Do you know the history on pit bulls? Are they typically aggressive dogs, or, can you just let our listeners know that, you have pit bull and parolees that I know a lot of people watch, but, just let us know from your perspective about pit bulls.
All right. So the history, according, as I know it, from pit bulls are, there are dogs that were basically bred originally for bull baiting. That's where they actually started. They were dogs used a lot in dog fighting, you know, and that's the sad part of the pit bull. The good part of the pit bull is that they've always been really friendly to people in general, as any animal, you know, because you can't have a dog that is in those kind of situations or parentheses here, sports, and not be able to handle them. So they had to understand that humans, you know, were not what they're supposed to be going for. Well, a while back there was the nanny dogs. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it was a nickname for the pit bull breed, where they would actually leave them. This was years and years and years ago with little children, and it would be safe.
Wow.
And we're talking about children who aren't quite crawling around yet,
right.
who aren't poking them and those kind of things. And it would be pretty safe. But the thing about all dog breeds is that it's the way that we raise them.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
That is the most important thing. It's the way that we raise them. It's our understanding of the breed. A pit bull can bite somebody, but so can a golden retriever.
Right. Exactly.
And if you poke a dog, they're gonna do it. You know, so they're a wonderful breed. They're an athletic breed. They can do a lot of things. They're really versatile. They could do nose work. They could do protection work. They could do agility, especially if you get a smaller one that's not too big. You know, because the joints and all that, but they could do agility. They could do barn hunting. They could do all sorts of things. So that is what makes them very unique. They love other dogs as well, you know. But once again, you have to raise them correctly so that way they understand, you know, when they're crossing the line.
Right.
You know. What else can I tell you about pit bulls? I had an apprentice who actually bred pocket pits for a while.
And the pocket pit is what?
It's a very small pit bull, basically.
Oh, yeah.
It's a smaller pit.
Okay.
So he was breeding those, and he was doing pretty good with them. He trains those dogs a lot, even now.
Now, do you have or have you ever had or do you train for show dogs?
Show dog. I don't train for show dogs, but I train dogs to be able to, you know, get along and travel through the world. But it's never been my thing where I want to actually do that kind of training either. Training for show dogs, I have to think, because really all they do is go over there, turn around, come back over here, then they do it in a trot, then they stand and stack. I guess that is the thing that they have
just
to do.
To be able to stand still for some dogs is, you know,
it's tricky.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have the agility part. And I saw some videos that you do
Yeah.
the agility.
Yeah. I do mainly utility work.
Okay.
Aside from agility. And a lot of times it's to help to build a dog's confidence and teach the dog about its body and things like that. A lot of the times when we have dogs with problems, it stems out of low confidence. So the utility courses are able to help with that. And same thing with agility. Agility will help a dog be more confident. I don't consider that show, though. I consider that sport.
Right.
The show stuff for me is more just how pretty is the dog, basically, right? That's what it is.
Right.
It's check his
It's
mouth,
like a pageant
make
for
sure
dogs,
you
right?
you touch him down, feel all the muscles. Like, yep, he looks good. He's supposed to be square. He's square. Supposed to be 100 pounds. He's 100 pounds. You know, he's the right color and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he wins.
Right.
For me, I'm more about functionality. You know, in my breeding of dogs, when I think about breeding dogs, I want us to, as humans, to breed for functionality more than for looks. You know, because when we breed for looks, we run into problems, you know, like the French bulldogs and the pugs and the dogs like that, who are, you know, they have a lot of medical issues, but they're cute. They are cute, you know, but they can have a lot of medical issues,
right?
You know, so
grooming dogs. How do you know when they need to be groomed, and would you recommend home grooming, especially if you don't have the experience?
So let's start with the home grooming, and then we'll go from there. I do recommend home grooming, even if you don't have experience. Grooming is bonding, you know, and we should be able to touch our dog all over the body. For those of you who don't have experience, what I would say is sit on the floor calmly with your dog, pet your dog and massage your dog, and from there you can start touching paws, you can start touching ears, you can start doing things like that. Then it's a matter of just getting the dog used to it. You know, you don't have to start with throwing the dog in the tub. Nobody wants to throw the dog in the tub anyway. I gave Didi a bath today. I asked her nicely to go into the tub, and she stepped into the tub on her own, you know, and that's what we want. So start off in ways that are gentle on the dog. You don't have to do it all yourself all the first time. You can still use a groomer in the beginning, you know, and then from there continue until you can do it pretty much all yourself. I do have some videos online for the puppy owners out there on my YouTube channel that has some information about grooming. For the people with older dogs, you really can follow those same tips, because a puppy kind of acts like an older dog. They're the same, you know. One's just young. So you could follow those same tips and be able to groom your dog as well pretty easily.
What about the nail part?
The nails are tricky, but once again, it's trust, and that's how I like to do it. You know, using a lot of food, touching the paws, making sure that you can hold your dog's paw without any pulling back. You know, before you even do anything with the nails, you can hold the dog's paw without any pulling back at all, and you could get food there. You know, you can take out your clippers and just put them on a table so the dog can see them as you're playing with your dog, as you're petting your dog, as you're hanging out with your dog. So that way it doesn't just come out at that moment when you're going to clip the nails. You could also socialize the dog to the clippers, you know, touching on the paws, giving food, put a toothpick on the back of the paw, hold it on, clip the toothpick so the dog hears the sound and feels the vibration. Give food, you know. When you see that the dog is not nervous, then you're ready to start working on the actual nail itself. Right. I like nail.
You mentioned clippers.
Yeah, nail clippers.
Just regular nail clippers.
Not our clippers, dog clippers.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure, because people say, "Oh, I can use clippers," and they go to the bathroom. So, what's the difference, and why do you need special clippers for dogs?
Dogs' nails are shaped differently than our nails. You know, they're more round, and they have a few kinds of clippers. They have a guillotine style clipper. They have like kind of scissor style clippers. Either one of those can work.
What about the shaving thing?
I like the Dremels better. I like the grinders. I use actually a Dremel with a nice diamond bit, so that way I could use it forever with 1 million dogs. I mean, it will never go. So I like that the best, and I think that that's easiest for most people. It's a little bit more difficult. It can be a little bit more difficult for the dog because of the sound. But the sound has really no meaning to the dog until they experience something that they connect with the sound. Right. So if we start off with the Dremel and put it up, and every time that we feed the dog dinner, we're giving them extra special treats that we probably shouldn't be giving our pet dogs, and we turn on the Dremel right before we do all that, you know, then it's going to build a good association with it, you know, with the tool itself. And then you could realize that the Dremel could be right there. You could touch it on the dog's paws. You could turn it backwards so it's touching, but it's not grinding and all that. You could hold a toothpick and grind a toothpick and give food and play with the dog. Pretty soon you're able to do it pretty easy.
Sound. And I'm glad you went into that, because I have a friend whose dog goes crazy at the sound of the vacuum cleaner.
Yes. It's association again, but that one, it could be a deep association. If it's an older dog and it's always done that could be a pretty deep association. Sometimes we have to pick our battles. Not to say that this vacuum cleaner is not a situation where we have to solve it, because it might be, but sometimes we have to pick our battles, and sometimes just move the dog to the other part of the house, the other part of the apartment, vacuum clean this part, put them over there. When you're done with this part, move them over there in a vacuum. Sometimes that's the best thing, but it's the same as a nail grinder, turning it on across the room and feeding food, playing with the dog, playing tug of war. I'm only gonna play with you when the vacuum's on. Pretty soon they're gonna want you to turn on that vacuum,
right?
And that's gonna be a big deal for them. But the grinding of the nails, if I could go back to that real quick, I like that better for most people than the nail clipping, because the nail clipping, there is the quick inside the nail. You could, of course, check on Google so where you could kind of see an outline as to how the nail is shaped, right? But the grinding tends to be less likely for us to hit that quick.
Right.
But if we hit the quick, it is not the end. The dog, it doesn't bother them that much. And of course we could have some quick stop, something there. We should have that anyway, ready in case we hit it. It's usually just one little touch of the powder on there, and then we're good. And then we try not to do it again.
So I have someone that's online right now, and they said, is there any truth to dogs hating mailmen?
Mailmen?
Yeah.
Hating. I don't.
Where did that come from? Like you see like the old cartoons or the shows, and the mailman comes and the dog just goes crazy.
Yeah. I know in my neighborhood, my mailman, all the dogs love him because he gives them all treats. So yeah, I mean, mailmen are hard because they approach the property. And dogs are protective. Mm-hmm. They are. They know what their surrounding is, and they know where their area is, and they're going to guard that area. At least they're going to let us know if somebody's not, like somebody who they think is not supposed to be there is there. And then it's also reinforced every day. What happens is the mailman comes to the house around the same time every day, makes some noise, the dog charges the door and barks, and then the mailman leaves. Right. That's a confidence boost. Right? That's a confidence boost, and it is rewarding. There's all sorts of dopamine, all sorts of adrenaline. The dog probably doesn't even have a problem with the mailman, just likes the routine, just likes to bark and show out and have fun. And that will happen. But of course, if they work themselves up all the way and then the door's left open, then they will chase the mailman, because they have worked themselves up so much.
Right. But now, question: is it important to allow your dog to breed?
To breed?
Yeah.
No, it's not important to allow your personal dog to breed. As a matter of fact, breeding, when we start thinking about that, we want to make sure that we're breeding the most healthy animals that we can. So you want to make sure that, you do all the checks. I know for Dee Dee, her owners had to have hip checks and shoulder checks, and her progenitors, I should say, had to have hip checks and shoulder checks and all of that. Breeding is a lot of work. It is a ton of work, and I don't recommend for most people that they breed their dogs.
He just clarified. He goes, well, I wasn't really talking about breeding. He goes, should your dog, go through life a virgin?
Go through life a virgin. I don't think the dog knows. Dee Dee's a virgin. All my dogs are. I don't think they know. My butt might not be, because I got him at 10 months old and he could have been running the streets. but yeah, I don't think it's a problem.
Right, even if they, because they naturally go through that cycle, especially female dogs.
Yes.
So that doesn't,
I allow my female dogs to go through 2 heat cycles, and then after that, I have them spayed.
Okay.
For maturity reasons. The male dogs, once they get to like 2 years old, they're good to be neutered, in my opinion. I don't think it's necessary, really. I don't think that dogs think about that the way we think about that. I think they kind of just smell something in the air, or it's just that time, yeah.
Right. Let's see if we have any other questions in here. No? So if you wanted to say, again, good weather is coming and people will be out with their dogs, what message would you have for these dog owners this year during this spring spring, summer, fall.
Yeah, I would say a few things. One is make sure that you bring your treats. Have your treat pouch. Have your treat pouch with you. It's always good to have food. And I know a lot of the times people feel like they shouldn't have to have food, but I always wear a treat pouch, and it's really good. It's one of my favorite tools. Another thing I would say is pay attention to the weather. Dogs, when it gets hot, that pavement really does get hot. So in the middle of the day, especially in days like today where it's really warm, you want to try to avoid having your dog walking on the sidewalk. I also will say, when your dog is on leash, in my opinion, when my dog is on leash, that dog is with me. So I don't really want him going up and saying hi to every other dog. So maintain your spacing a little bit and engage your dog. Have fun out there. Right. That's another big one. Have fun. Make sure you have fun with your dog. Get out there, go see stuff, bring them places. But before you do all of that, make sure that you do some training. Or at least being able to sit on the leash and have the dog calm down next to you, before taking them to the coffee shop or to the patio of the coffee shop and having a cup of coffee. Make sure that he's calm.
You mentioned the hot pavement. What about the hot sand on the beach?
Hot sand on the beach. Same
thing,
the
right?
Same.
I see a lot. I'm taking my dog to the beach.
Wait till the early morning or the late afternoon, dusk and dawn, right? It's the same. And the beach is tough. It's tough because some dogs will try to drink the water, which is really bad. And the dogs that don't, it is very sandy there.
Yeah.
I don't know if the beach is like a really...
Well, nowadays, most beach are... dogs are off limit on beaches anyway. So
during the summertime.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
It all depends on the neighborhood you go to or where you're at, So.
That's true.
All right. Another controversial thing: human food or not?
Human food or not? So it's best to feed dogs with the freshest food that we can. Human food. The thing about human food that's tricky is that everything that we eat is not necessarily good for the dogs. I do not have a problem with feeding dogs human food. We're actually cooking for dogs. If you can do that, that is a good thing. You're gonna see it in the life. You're gonna see in the quality of life that your dog has. I'm a big fan of raw feeding. When you know how, don't just buy a few chicken legs and here you go, dog. Nah, that's not what I'm talking about. You have to make sure that they get all the minerals, vitamins, and proteins, and all the necessary things that they need. Is more than just giving them raw food. But I believe in that, and I believe that helps. With the longevity of the dog.
Right.
I am concerned about kibbles. I'm concerned about a lot of that overcooked, over-processed food and the quality, what it gives to our dogs. I'm concerned about that. So if you're able to feed... Now, what I don't want to do is I don't want to take food off of my plate and give it to my dog while we're sitting at the table. I don't want to do that. That's going to cause problems. If I am going to give my dog any kind of leftovers, they always get it the day after and in their dog bowl. They never get it from the table itself.
Right.
And I make sure I check it. I make sure I check to make sure that the things I'm giving the dog is not dangerous for them.
Right. So if you had barbecue chicken last night, don't give your dog the barbecue chicken.
No, especially if there's bones in it. Right. There's too much, and the spices on the barbecue. You have to be sure what's in that barbecue sauce. And then we have the skin. Which is going to be extra fat, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but. It depends on where your dog is. If your dog is a little bit already, pushing the limits, then you might not want to give him that. But yeah, it is good. Chicken is good though. Cooked chicken is good. Right. And if you get the barbecue sauce off of it and it's not too spicy for the dog, then yeah, it's a good thing to give him.
You mentioned chicken bones. No chicken bones for God because they're too sharp.
Cooked bones at all. So that is any kind of bone that we cook. See, when you cook a bone, it changes, and it splinters instead of grinding or crushing down. Raw bones will not splinter.
Okay.
And then once the dog eats it, and if it splinters inside of the dog, that could cause a problem. So they're actually pretty dangerous. Corn cobs are really dangerous. I know that doesn't have anything to do with bones, but don't let your dogs eat any corn cobs. Those are really dangerous, you know. Um, but yeah, whenever I think of chicken bones, I also think of that.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of safe things for dogs to eat,
Mm-hmm.
peanut butter. Peanut butter is a good treat for dogs, but we have to make sure that there's no xylitol in it.
Xylitol.
Yes,
Okay.
xylitol is very dangerous, and it shows up in a few products,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very dangerous for dogs. And we could innocently be like, yeah, dogs. I've always given dogs peanut butter. Here's some peanut butter, but now they're putting in xylitol in there, so
Okay.
we have to be careful with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the cinema, the movie go to make the dog look like it's talking. So if you're watching a movie, that's what they use.
They
They give them peanut butter because
right,
to make it
right.
look like the dog is talking.
So that
in
way
the
he's
film.
moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mouth is moving.
So, but we are 10 minutes away. So I want to do a few housekeeping things. I want to thank you again for being here today, but I also want to let our listeners and stuff know. I know you guys are all at the beach. That's why no one's calling in right now. You're all at the beach enjoying this very hot day. But I wanted to let you guys and remind you that the radio station is having its online auction, which went live at 12 noon today. So if you want the auction information, you can go on our webpage and get it. It is an online live auction. Some great stuff on there, and we are still adding stuff to it. So, and it goes from today until June 7th. So continuously check back to see if there's any items on there that you would love to bid on. Some great gift certificates. We got some signed memorabilia from some sports teams. We got some great apparel. Nice jacket from Goose Country. Race jacket, brand new, valued at $1,300, I believe. So if you're trying to get ready for the winter, it's right around the corner because summer's just going to fly by and we'll be, cold weather again. So get your jacket. But go get ready for our silent auction and continue to check it. We're going to be adding stuff all the way up until the last day, June 7th. So we're going to be reaching out to some businesses and seeing if they have anything they want to contribute. And so continue to go back and check. I can let you in on something. We got, hopefully, I'm just trying to work it out with Airbnb, that we're going to have a week-long Airbnb in Jamaica that's going to be up for auction. So stay tuned for that. Trying to get that, worked out the logistics on that and get that on the site as soon as possible. We have some artists that have donated some time to do paintings for you. All you have to do is mail them a picture, either of your house or a portrait, and they'll do the painting for you. So some great stuff on there, all to go to support our nonprofit radio station here. We need new equipment, and plus we're starting our broadcast academy, teaching kids and teens and stuff how to do what we do here at the radio station, from actually broadcasting to editing to videotaping, everything. So they'll come in this summer and learn how to do all this, and hopefully we'll be able to hire them. So it'll be some good stuff. So if you know any teens that are looking for summer jobs, just send them my way. And so again, here I want to thank Martin for coming in and bringing your companion with you. She's very well behaved. And so again, if you have a pet and a dog and you want to get some more training, how do we reach you again?
You can reach me by emailing dogtrainer@argostraining.com. You could also search for Argos Dog Training in Google, YouTube, all over the place. You can find us anywhere.
Excellent. And speaking of our silent auction, I'm going to talk with you after we get off the air to see maybe you can donate a certificate for a couple of hours of training or something like that we can put on our auction site.
We could definitely talk about it.
Awesome. And so again, thank you guys for tuning in on this beautiful day. Enjoy the day, stay safe, and remember, without you, there is no me. Again, this is the What Now broadcast, airing every fourth Sunday of the month. And I believe I will be taking a hiatus after this month. I got some personal things I have to deal with. And so I will let you know through the website when I will be broadcasting live again. And so stay tuned. Again, Martin, thank you for
Thank you so much, Eric.
gracing us. And we are out. And that person I dedicated to is deceased, so but the family allowed me to do it. So, but so one of the reasons why I wanted to do this.
I should have brought a paper towel for the beginning. I was just sweating like every day. I was like,